Welcome back to this Vlogmas series where we will plan together for 2024. Today we are talking goals, and I have some beef with what most of the internet is all about, and that is the SMART goal method. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And at first this sounds like a very clever concept, but let me tell you, it is not, and I will tell you why. Just a quick trigger warning as an example, I'm going to refer to one of the most popular and yet most underachieved New Year's goals, which is weight loss, and you will see why it is such a perfect bad example when I explain it. Let's start with specific. Setting a specific goal sounds good. It's a defined ending point, right? While that is true, we usually set goals for things that we never did or achieved before in our lives. So how are we supposed to know if we actually want that? If we set a certain number on the scale to reach, we don't know how our bodies will be feeling once we reach that number. Chances are that not reaching that number will make us feel like a failure, even though our body could be in great shape already. Worst case, it can cause severe damage. Long story short, we can't be specific about things we have no experience of. Measurable is next. And don't we all love some to-do list that we can tick off and see how far we have progressed? But sadly, that's not how progress works. It can get really messy. In our example, weight loss can plateau because of many reasons, mostly because the same volume of muscles weighs more than fat. So your body is changing, but it can't be ticked off somewhere or measured in a number. Personally, I've been on a mental health journey for a year now, and while things have changed big time, it was on such a small scale, so complex, and so much back and forth that it was definitely not measurable. And yet it is one of the most impressive and hardest things I've ever done. Achievable. This falls into the same category as specific. We don't have the experience to know what actually is achievable. Often we wildly overestimate what we can do and wildly underestimate the time something will take. Relevant. If we humans would only do relevant things in our lives, I would not be talking to you because there would be no internet. That's right, some important theories the internet was later based on came about through pure curiosity. And as with big things, it is the same with small things. What seems irrelevant now can become of huge importance later on. And finally, time-bound. As I said before, we often wildly underestimate the time something will take. And even if we achieve a thing but take much longer than our set deadline, we will feel bad. Time restrictions make us blind to what we already achieved and make us only see what we haven't achieved yet. In short, don't set SMART goals for your personal life unless you want to make yourself unhappy. But what to do instead? I've come up with a different acronym. It's time for a memo. A memo stands for adaptable, meandering, explorative, minuscule, open-ended. Let me explain this in more detail. Goals need to be adaptable so that after each step you take, you can correct course. You can also understand the A as ambiguous, something you vaguely know which direction to go in for, but it needs somehow to be unclear, because it will become clearer with every step you take. So leave yourself lots of wiggle room for your passions to grow in. Meandering. As opposed to a straight line, it's better to take the scenic route, even though it might take longer. Through knitting, I've learned that I rather take a step or more backwards than move forward with something that I hate. The first time I had to flog a project was painful, but I know I would have hated it. And with each time it gets easier. The focus needs to be shifted from blindly achieving progress to just enjoying the thing, no matter which stage it is in. Explorative. Taking time to explore something can lead us to new ways of doing things. It can also be a waste of time, but that's okay. The guilt over wasted time often weighs so heavy that we want to avoid anything that could lead to it. Wasted time seems to be the new ultimate sin. Everything has to be streamlined, perfected, useful. Try to get rid of the guilt, waste some time and go explore. Minuscule or mediocre. Both are things that are avoided like the plague by Western society standards. Nobody wants to be an underachiever or just mediocre. There's the pressure to excel and outperform your peers. But the price for this is high, trust me. I've paid it and spent a couple of months at the psych ward. Not because I'm weak, but because in this system you will never be good enough. I've talked to so many impressive people, often among the best in their field, and they all confirmed imposter syndrome never really stops. If you learn to cherish cherish small steps and being just average. It takes away so much pressure and frees up energy to actually do things and enjoy them. Don't let your joy come from excellence and/or approval. Open-ended. While an external deadline can often get you going, a deadline set for yourself fails to create the urgency to get moving forward, but still has the power to make you feel bad once it is missed. Let your personal projects breathe. Even put them aside for a while. In a world where everything has to move fast to create a profit, a slowly grown thing is a rare jewel. So go on and fill your treasure chest. Next up, grab a piece of paper and just brain dump everything you want to achieve on it. If you're like me, you're an impatient big dreamer. You want everything and you want it now. And that's okay. Get everything out. You don't have to achieve it all in just a year. It's good to have something to look back on and compare it with what you currently want. Some things will stick, others will fall away. This is a screenshot of you and you can add to it later on as well. Now for the sections to put your goals in. I'm not convinced that those are needed because goals tend to overlap, but I did it for neatness. Generally, goals fall into one or more of these 5 categories. Career is everything that secures your livelihood, from school to a job to side hustles. Basically, everything that brings in the dough. Health is mental and physical. It can include also physical hobbies and cooking if you do them more for health benefits than enjoyment. Therapy lives here, as well as meditation and other things that are good for your mind. Admin is basically getting your shit together, like your finances or your stuff or whatever keeps bugging you on a regular basis. Hobby/skills is anything that you do that you're not paid for but still want to put work and energy in. It can be learning a new language or traveling to a new place or simply getting a new tattoo. Finally, relationships. This includes goals which have to do with someone else but you. Friends, family, dating, a higher spiritual entity, whatever floats your boat. Once that is done, we move on to another spread, and here is where the magic happens. I've put it on top of the page because it is so important. A goal is something that, once achieved, stays achieved. This is crucial for planning your steps with the A-memo method. Let me explain and go back to our example in the beginning. If you achieve weight loss, it is not permanent. Bodies change all the time, and while that seems annoying, it's a good thing. So this goal would not hold up. Generally, everything that includes building a habit is in danger of falling away once the streak is broken. Instead, we need a foundation that we can work from and return to if our exploring leads us to a dead end. In the weight loss example, a good goal would be having, for example, 10 healthy recipes written down in a cookbook that are easy to make even if we're low on energy or broke, and that are delicious as well. For this, we would need to experiment for a couple of weeks, but once we had it down, no one could take it away from us. Other examples would be working through a chapter of a language learning textbook. Even if we don't pick the book up for a couple of months, it is something that stays there on paper and we can read through it and go, ah, that's what I did. Keeping up with habits and streaks can get boring easily. Sometimes doing something routinely takes away from the joy we feel while doing it. It's okay to work in spurts. Willpower, consistency, and discipline are some wild fever dreams the productivity bubble has come up with. Nature, of which we humans are part of, doesn't work like that. Having all scorching hot days spread out over the course of a year would maybe be nice, but that's not how it works. There's summer and there's winter. Or for example, if you menstruate, you will have more energy around ovulation than during the time you shed your uterus lining. Things come and go, and that's okay. With all of that explanation out of the way, here is what this spread is for. For each goal, I came up with at least one thing I wanted to do that once achieved, stayed achieved. Sometimes that is kind of hard to do because writing down a habit is much more easier. Just saying doing yoga daily won't make you do it. Instead, making a YouTube playlist of yoga videos for every level of energy you have, or even creating your own flow, takes much more time, but makes it much more likely you will often do yoga. It is a lot of experimenting and takes patience, especially when it comes to figuring out ways that fit you and your many moods. And it is definitely not a straight line, but once figured out, it will make things much easier because you figured yourself out. I know it's a lot, but that's it for today. If you want, post one of your own goals in the comments. I'm always excited about that. And if you want to follow along the series, you can subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!